All right, hello. This is Mike Morgan from MorganTalks.com. Watch out, people. Watch the hell out. I'm going to tell you a story. True story that happened to me. You're paying for this convenience, but you better watch out. You may not be getting what you think you're getting. Now, when it comes to oil change, in my house, it's just me and my wife, and we have 3 vehicles. I always go to do all the oil changes. When it's time, I go. Years ago, I used to go to those fast oil changes. All those oil changes on the streets. You know, all they do is oil. I'm not using any names. There's many kinds. But I had a bad experience at one. You know, where you go in, they got somebody standing out there, come on in, 15-minute oil change, whatever that is. You know, get an oil change on your lunch, in and out. The guy's standing out there. Sometimes they have signs out there, and, you know, those blow-up doll things and stuff. We're open or whatever it is. It's one of those type of places. Big chain place to change oil. There's many of them, but I had a problem with one. And it's just my experience with one. I'm not going to use any names. But, so anyways, my story is this. I think you got to watch out. Now, I always, when it came to the oil, when I used to go to these places, I would always go. I never let my wife go. I would go, and even though I don't know that much about cars, really, but I wanted to be there thinking, you know, that maybe they think the man does know more about cars. I don't know. But I went. And even though I'm not an auto mechanic, but I mean, it's just changing oil, and, you know, sometimes they ask you a question or whatever, but whatever. Anyways, when you go to them, I always remember that, you know, they'd come out and they'd always try to upsell you. You know, you try to go in just for the oil change. You want the basic oil change. They take your car in, they make you sit in the office, the room there. Then all of a sudden, you know, the guy starts working on your car, and they always got to come in. They always got to come in for something. They don't just change your oil and say you're all set. They always got to come in and say, hey, sir, ma'am, whatever, look at this. We think that you need this. It looks bad. Do you want us to change this, that? They're always trying to upsell it. And usually I would say no, whatever the hell it is. Just change the oil. Because I have mechanics for that stuff. You know what I mean? I'm just here for the oil change. You know what I mean? So I went through all that nonsense or whatever. You know, the guy, expecting the guy, you know, he's always going to come in and, you know, he's going to say something. I remember they used to do something. They came when I had my old truck. They used to, I don't know what they call it, but it's called a PCC valve or something like that. A PCC valve or something like that. I don't know what it is, but they used to come walking in with it. And they'd say, I think your PCC valve needs to be changed. And he's got it in his hand. And I'm like, no, it's fine, because I didn't know what it was. And I'm like, every time I come here, stop taking it out, because you're going to ruin it. You keep removing it, putting it back in, you're going to ruin it. Leave the thing alone. So they would come in, I don't know what this is, a PCC valve, something like that. You come in a little plastic, weird little thing. I don't know what the hell it is. But they used to walk in and go, and I'm like, I would say no every time, but they kept removing it to show me. I'm like, stop touching it. You know what I mean? You're going to break it. Stop taking parts off my car to show me what's going, you know, to try to upsell me. So anyway, you always have to go through that. And they're always trying to upsell you with the oil. But the biggest complaint that I had is the day, and I always would look, you know, to make sure they were changing the oil. I would kind of creep out there, look at my head, try to see if I could see the guy changing oil, because I was always skeptical if they would do the work. I always was skeptical they'd do the work. If they would change the filter, if they would do the oil, whatever it is, I was always skeptical that they were gonna short me at any of these places. But the day came when, for some reason, my wife's car needed the oil change, and I couldn't do it. And I said, you know, it's getting so much. I'm so busy. I'm doing the cars. You're going to have to go this time. You're going to have to go. We were at the dinner table, and I told my wife, you know, you're going to have to go after work and get the oil changed. So I remember it was raining out too, and I said, you know, you're going to have to go tomorrow because it's overdue, and I can't do it. And it looks like I'm going to be busy for a while. So she says, yeah, I'll go after work. So we were sitting there, and I'm like, it was raining. And I said to myself, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to go, and I'm going to put a mark on the oil filter. And she says, what are you going to do? What? I said, I'm going to go put a mark on the oil filter. So I went out there after it just stopped raining. I went out there with a marker. And it was a white filter or a blue filter. It was a blue filter. And I had a magic marker, black or blue marker. But anyways, I went down there, I crawled underneath the car, I found the oil filter, and I wrote my initials, MM, on the filter. Just MM. Not big, just MM on the filter. And I said, I'll know if they changed it now, you know. But so that was it. So my wife went, changed the oil the next day, and about 3 days went by, and she said, we were at dinner table again, and she says, did you ever look at the the mark on the oil filter that changed? You had to go out there in the rain. Did you ever check that? I said, no, but I'm gonna right after we eat dinner. So, finish dinner, I go out there, I crawl underneath the car, and what do I see? I see my initials on the oil filter. It means I didn't change it. I said, holy shit. I came back in the house and I said, where's your receipt? So she's looking, she says, yeah, it's right here, the receipt. I said, I want to see what they wrote on this receipt, supposedly what they did, because they always change the filter. I thought maybe there's one chance that they said, we didn't do the filter, which would be ridiculous, but I just wanted to give the benefit of the doubt. So I got the receipt and I'm reading it. It says, 5 quarts of so-and-so oil, changed the oil filter, did all the points inspection, grease this, grease that, yada, yada, all the stuff. And I'm flipping out. I'm going, you got to be kidding me. So I call the corporate office. That night, I think it might have been that night, because I think it was like they still were open or something like that. I ended up getting to the corporate office and I said, wait. I said, I had my wife do my oil change and you didn't change the oil. I said. They go, what do you mean? I called the corporate office. I said, I wrote my name on the oil filter because I couldn't be there in person. My wife was going, which I was worried about it because I figured they would take advantage of a woman, which I was correct. And I said, I put my name on the oil filter, and guess what? You guys did I have a whole receipt here saying you did the whole oil change, filter, everything. I'm looking at my name on the filter. What's up with that? And they said, oh, we're sorry, so that's not like us. And I said to them around the phone, I said, how many people have you ripped off? How many people have you ripped off? I said, how many elderly people, whatever, women, how many people have you ripped off? They were like, we're so sorry, come right back in, we'll change the oil. I said, well, I'm not going back to that location, because that location, obviously, they had other locations. I said, I'm not going back there. There were a bunch of idiots over there. They didn't change the oil first time. I'm not going back there. They said, fine, go to other locations. They said, we'll change the oil immediately, no problem. So I did. I went back to the oil place, a different one, different location. And I remember that the guy's name was on the ticket that did the oil. The guy's name was on it. I'm not going to say his name. But the guy's name was at the top who did the oil change. So I knew it because I had the copy of it. What they said. I'm mailing my mail right now. And so I knew the guy's name. So I went to this other location of the same place, and I get my oil change. And I guess what happened is that these people, they might work at one location today, but they may put them in another location tomorrow, so that they need somebody a town over, you'll be there, or down the street. A lot of these places are down the street. So they'll, instead of this location, they say, hey, you got to go a couple blocks where that location needs. So these different guys, I could work at the location today and tomorrow have it somewhere else if they needed me. So I go, and I'm there, and the guys are changing. I told what happened, and I'm changing the oil. And I'm in the little room, and I'm opening the door now because I'm pissed. I'm like, yeah, looking at it. So the guy's doing it, and the oil, I see the guy drop the plug, and the oil looks clean. And he yells out, the guy, this oil's clean. And it ended up being the same guy that did it at the other location. And they told me that's the guy that did the location. So I was like, that's the guy who did it. I'm not going to say his name. So the guy's going, this oil's clean. It came out. The oil was clean. And I saw him, I heard him yell that. I opened the door and I yelled out his name. And I said, you know what? You changed the oil. You didn't change the filter, so-and-so. I said, you didn't change the filter. You might have changed the oil. You didn't change the filter. Because my name's on it. And he shut up. And they did the oil. And then I left. No charge. And then in the mail, I got like 3 free ones. They were like, we're so sorry. They sent me 3 free oil changes at this place of business. So I did is I used the 3 up. I watched them every time, and I never went back. And I've always been skeptical after that about using them, because if I didn't put my name on the filter, I never would have known. But I did, and I found out. So, lesson learned, lesson for you too, that if your wife is going to go to the oil change, or even for yourself, if you're capable of finding your oil filter and you're able to get down there and you know where it is, write your name on it. Get some permanent marker, get your name on it. And that's what I did. And if I didn't do that, I wouldn't know anything. But the thing is, for me to put my name on it, and for me to be the only one that they did it, it's ridiculous. Must have been going on for a long, long time. For me to just happen to be the guy that puts my initial and then I'm the one, they're doing everybody. I mean, it's outlandish to think that, you know, I'm the only time that I put my name in, it's the only time that the guy forgets the filter. I don't think so. You know, I don't think so. You know, maybe they didn't have the filter in stock they needed. I don't know. They're supposed to have it. But anyway, they charged me for it. They could have said to my wife, listen, we didn't have the right filter. We changed the oil. We're charging you less. But they didn't say that. I mean, so in my opinion, they do it a lot. You know what I mean? The guy's like, we dropped the oil, but they didn't do the filter. And for me, to, you know, the first time I put my initials on it, this happens because my wife's going. Because usually I see it. I'm there looking. I can see what they're doing. But unbelievable. So word to the wise. You know what I mean? Did you ever think about that, doing that? I did. And I found out something I didn't want to know. But so from now on, what I do now is I go to a mechanic that I trust who does my car. I make it a point. You're going to pay a little more. You're going to pay a little more. You probably can get better oil, but you know it's going to be done right. And I have a lot of issues with oil change. I mean, I've had oil changes at dealerships too. And, you know, and I always check the oil level myself. And a lot of times, you know, when you do oil, you know, there's a little, there's a gap where it's supposed to be. It's like a little inch and it's going high and then it's got a little corrugated and then there's like low. There's like 2 dots and anywhere in between those dots is supposedly okay. But once you get past that 1 dot, it means you're supposed to add oil. You don't want to be overfilled. Now, I've been at locations where I've actually went to dealers because I buy new cars and they have like free oil changes for the first couple of years or whatever it is. So I go, but even then I check, and I've checked because I like to check up stuff like that to see what's going on. And I'll pull the dipstick out before I go to an oil changer. Before I go that morning, I'll check the dipstick. And usually the oil, you can tell it's dirty and stuff like that. But then and of course when I'm done, I'll pull off in the lot at the dealer and I'll check the oil right there with the dipstick. Even though it's hard because the oil is, you know, running in the car, so it's throwing it all up the place. It's best to check the oil like in the morning when the oil all settles. But anyways, I'll still check it to see if it's pretty much where it should be. But I've had it in the past at dealerships where I bought cars from. They've done the oil and the oil was filled high, like 3/8 high. And I went on Google and I'm like, is this good? Is this good? And they're like, nah, it's pressure on the engine. And I had to go back. You know, I even called the deal. I'm like, it's overfilled. They're like, well, it shouldn't be. And like, oh, it shouldn't be that bad. And I'm like, well, I'm Googling that it's not good. And, you know, they're all like, well, then bring it in. And I showed them. And then I went, you know, one time I brought it back and they took me in the back to the guys where they do the oil. They're like, is this satisfactory? I'm like, as long as it's where it's supposed to be, don't overfill it because it says it's bad for the engine. You got a brand new car that, you know, you're taking a loan out for because you want to keep the car, and they're overfilling it on the first oil change, putting stress on the engine. You want to keep the car. You're buying because you want to keep it long term. So it's not like a lease. So here I am, and they're overfilling it, and it says it shouldn't be filled. It's supposed to be between 2 dots. Why isn't it? You're supposed to be professional. You're the dealer. You're supposed to be professional. So that's that. But I mean, you got to watch it. But word to the wise with the oil change, you better watch it, because especially when you don't know about cars, you better know. So find where your filter is. A lot of times now they don't have screw and oil filters. When I had these cars, it was back in the day when they had screw and oil. Today they're like a lot of cartridges, so it's really hard to find out. It's like a cartridge. They pull something off, they put this new cartridge in, they put the housing back. So they don't really have a lot of where they spin on the filters. So that was back in the day, maybe like I don't know, over 10 years ago, 15 years ago this happened. But and I'm sure it's still going on today. But make sure that they change your oil. Even though if they have the new cars, at least check your dipstick. Check your dipstick before you go to the oil change, and check it when it's done. Usually when the oil is brand new, you can't even see it today. The oil is so thin that it's so clear it looks like water. You can't even see it. And usually when that happens, when you pull your dipstick out, turn it back. Read the back side of the dipstick, where there's no letters and nothing like that. Sometimes you can see it better. You'll see where it should be, and just flip it around. My dad told me that, and I've always done that, and he's right. And he's dead now, but I would have told him that I made a video about what he said. But my dad's dead now. But anyways, he was right. Pull the dipstick out and try to check it in the morning or when the car's been off for a while. But the morning's the best way to check your oil because it's settled all night long. But the new oil today, you can't even see it.